Hi, this is Paul Harrington again, and I'm going to continue with deleted scenes from my autobiography, 7 Years to Life. This one is called Dogs, Cats, and the Heidelberg. I had met Paul F. in high school. He was a year behind me, technically, but we became very, very close friends in those years and remained so for years, for quite a while. When I went to work for the airmail facility, the post office, the U.S. Post Office airmail facility in San Francisco, I met a girl by the name of Leslie Y., who we became fast friends. She was just very likable, had an infectious personality, and just kind of a heck of a lot of fun to be around. Anyway, I decided to, Paul F. was, at the time, a little bit depressed. He didn't have a love life going on, or where he usually did. He was an extremely handsome man. Handsome young man, and probably still is. But I decided that I would introduce him to Leslie. So I introduced them, and they hit it off almost immediately, and began a very intense love affair for years. Intense, sometimes, like all romantic relationships and significant others and husbands and wives, they had their problems, so did we. Anyway, my first wife, Georgia, and I became close friends with those two. And as was so often would happen in those days, in order to cut down expenses and do things, we decided, the two couples, Paul and Leslie, and Georgia and I, decided that we would find a place to move in together. And over the years, we moved into a number of places in the peninsula, and actually for quite a few years, and we were pretty much inseparable. And then Paul and Leslie decided to move to Santa Rosa. And we thought about it, Georgia and I, that is, for a long time. We decided to follow them up there. We didn't have hardly any possessions. So if you maybe a bed, I don't know, a couch, I don't remember. I don't even remember the details of the move, but we moved up there because we wanted to be close to them and stuff. Well, we didn't even find a place before we moved up there. We just moved up there. Paul and Leslie were living in what I'll call, for lack of a better term, a one-bedroom studio that I think there was a house in front of it, then there was the studio, and then at the back of their driveway that went, which was basically gravel or dirt or whatever, that went to the end was a Volkswagen repair shop by a couple of hippie guys that looked like they were right out of Zap Comics. I mean, you could open up a Zap comic and put their picture next to one of them, and there they were, the hippy-dippy Volkswagen auto repair guys. Anyway, before I continue a little bit, we did become fast friends. We spent an enormous amount of time with each other. Leslie, with her own words, told me that she thought I was the funniest man alive. And, I appreciated the compliment. But I do remember that sometimes I had her literally bent over in stitches, because my humor was basically situational. It wasn't a planned out thing or anything like that. But she would be bent over laughing. So needless to say, if I had an audience just of all Leslies, I could have filled arenas. Unfortunately, that isn't the way it goes. Anyway, so we had moved down to Santa Rosa, and Paul owned a VW bus. And in the back of the VW bus was a bed set up. So during the day, we would hang out with Paul and Leslie and go places or spend time in their studio cottage. And at night, we would go ahead and sleep in their Volkswagen bus. And when we needed to shower, we would use their shower. Well, obviously, that gets a little bit old, regardless. I don't care how communal you are, that does get a little bit old, at least to me. But we decided we'll try and find a place to live close by. And we ended up in a town called Windsor, which was just north of Santa Rosa. And Santa Rosa, back in the 70s, I'm going to tell you, was a lot different than the Santa Rosa than you see today. Just like most of the suburbs, Santa Rosa used to be a quiet, beautiful town, and of course, developers came in, built all sorts of stuff. But anyway, that's insignificant. We've all seen it. So we found this little cul-de-sac off of Windsor Road. I mean, Windsor Road was a 2-lane highway, one in one direction, 1 lane in the other. And it consisted of, I believe it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cottages. I guess I can call them 2-bedroom cottages, very old, kind of dilapidated. And the landlord just decided, rather than have them as vacation rentals, he would just rent them all year round. So we moved into this 2-bedroom place. Once again, I'm going to call it a place for lack of a better term. Now, just to give you a quick brief description, when you walk into the place, as soon as you open the door, you're staring at basically your kitchen, and let's call it your dining area. And right beyond that is the sink. There was no dishwasher, and a little window. And then on one side of that room was another room, and on the other side of that kitchen dining area was another room of equal size and equal proportions. The funny thing about the whole place is, as you walked in and you looked at that sink where you were going to do your dishes, you're looking around, where's the bathroom? Well, once you looked right to the right of you, you could squeeze through and get into this little stand-up shower that, we were poor at the time, but we were loving it. And there was a stand-up shower, and you would go in and you would take a shower, which was right next to your kitchen, which was kind of odd. But you turned on that water and you thought the whole community was boiling eggs, because it smelled like hard-boiled eggs, the water coming from the wells. Anyway, the whole purpose of this story is to basically talk about an incident that I should have included, or I won't call it an incident, but kind of something that was kind of funny when we were living up there. Anyway, I had a dog and I had a cat. The dog's name was Rufus. It was a Beagle Terrier mix. Even though it was a female, we called it Rufus. And that dog wouldn't obey you come hell or high water. She was going to do what she wanted. And then we had a cat. And what was funny about the whole thing was, and then right across the street was this, I'll call it German restaurant, or whatever you want to call it. It was called the Heidelberg, and I'll get to that in a minute. But, I should say, Georgia eventually got a job waiting tables over there and doing her waitress duties, and she actually made very decent tips, and we got a lot of free leftover food, so our food budget was almost nil. And it was directly across this 2-lane Windsor Road from where we lived. I had gotten a part-time job at a place called Truman's Shell. That didn't last too long, and it's not worth going into. But so we had the dog and cat, and lo and behold, the dog got pregnant and the cat got pregnant very close to the same time. But they delivered at the same time. And I believe the dog had a litter of 6 puppies, some of them very cute, one of them we did keep, and the cat had a litter of maybe 5 or 6. I know it was a minimum of 5 at the same time. So now we had 2 dogs, a cat, a dog, and 6 puppies and 5 kittens, let's say. So we had to figure out how to set it up. So the room to the left of the kitchen dining area we set up as our bedroom, and it had a little closet in there. The room to the right, that could have been another bedroom, a guest room, a den or whatever, but it was exactly like our bedroom, and it had a closet in there. So what we did was we put a little barrier around the closet, and we put a little small blankets to separate the dogs from the cats, or the puppies from the kittens. Well, back then, of course, marijuana was my friend, and it was a friend of a lot of my friends, and we all used to get high, and of course, at the time, there were times when things were just, might not have been funny when you were straight, but they were hilarious when you were high. So anyway, we had the cats and kittens, and all of a sudden, George and I had smoked a couple of joints. I don't know if Paul ever came over. I know Leslie came over, but I'm sure Leslie and Paul came over. But we walked into the room where the cats and the puppies and kittens would be essentially feeding on their parents. Well, you could walk in there at any given time and you would find kittens feeding on the dog and puppies feeding on the cat. And I got to tell you, when you're high and you see this, as mundane as it seems now, was one of the funniest things we'd ever seen. So we would laugh like crazy. And it was a really cool incident. With this Windsor back then was just a small little town. I think the only places there was the Heidelberg restaurant. I never found a city hall or whatever, and a factory that produced pre-manufactured log homes. That was Windsor, okay? And anyway, Georgia had gotten the job over there, and one time she came home and said, I won't say the guy's name, but the owner's name, had asked if I could help out around the bar and help out. They had a smorgasbord, and they had all sorts of folk dancing that were reminiscent of 30s Germany and Sweden and Nordic type things. And but they asked if I could help around the bar and help around the smorgasbord. And I said, sure, why not? They paid me a little. They were giving us free food. But a couple of things that were kind of weird about the whole situation, when I was taking care of the smorgasbord, when anything got low, it was my job to fill it up and keep it clean. You've seen it at any smorgasbord before. Well, their menu items were delicious, but I would tell you right now, if it's still there, and I doubt it is, but if it's still there, do not eat at their smorgasbord. I was out of peas, and I went up on a ladder, and I found this big old, I don't know how many pound can of peas, and right across the bottom of it was a label that said substandard peas. So I got down off the ladder, and I said, where's our are standard peas that's fit for the smorgasbord. And they go, they're right up there on the top of the ladder. I said, the only one I saw up there said substandard. He goes, those are the ones. And so I went back down the ladder, and I, put the peas that was kind of contained in water and stuff like that, and I put it in the water in the smorgasbord, in the tray that was heated by the water underneath the smorgasbord. Well, as soon as I got the peas in there, you could see the water start turning green and the peas kind of turning white, and it was like, holy crap, I hope not too many people are eating this stuff, because who knows what else was in there. Now, I ate from the smorgasbord a lot. Christ, back then, being stoned and high, I'd eat anything from 16 orange cupcakes to whatever food you wanted to shove down my mouth. But the last part of this story is kind of, and I want to be touchy about it because I might post this on Facebook and they're become the Nazis now of, I'll take that back. They have become, through some of the things that have happened there, justifiably so, are removing certain posts or the ability to make comments on certain posts. All I want to say is when I was helping out, serving drinks and doing things, they also had a dance floor. So people, older people, 55 to 65 years old, and they had this, what you would picture, like this European Nordic folk dancing band, and all these people were dressed like they came down from the Alps, and they were dancing around, and they were having the time of their lives. But hanging out at the bar and kind of being a bar back and helping out the bartenders, I heard some pretty strange things that I'm not going to repeat because it might get the post torn down or whatever. But I will say this. I heard a lot of racist comments. I heard a lot about the old days in Germany. Whatever that means to you and whatever that means to me, been completely different. I never, the entire time that I went over there, and that was, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 times, I can't remember, to work, but I never once saw anybody but pasty lily white people. And I had asked Georgia, my wife, who worked there all the time, I said, have you ever seen a minority walk on there? She goes, no, you're not going to see minorities walk on there. First of all, it's not the type of culture they're drawn to. The dancing is something they would like. The food off the menu they might like, but I've never seen them. So anyway, that's kind of the story of, cats, dogs, and the Heidelberg. And I hope people understand that when I talk about the things I heard around the Heidelberg, it's what I heard. I place no judgment on it, and I'm not saying it's what the other people said was factual or not. It just had an undertone of what I would say just plain call racism and prejudice. Anyway, that's the end of it. I'm going to sign off. This is Paul Harrington. Hope you enjoy the deleted scene, and I'll talk to you next time. Goodbye.